All right, you guys ready? As ready as, put it this way, as ready as you're gonna be?
Let's do it.
All right. Hey folks, you're listening to the Labor Radio Podcast Weekly with Chris Garlock.
Harold Phillips.
And Patrick Dixon.
So guys, how was your week? And Harold, since this was your idea, you first.
Yeah, I actually had a really great week. Up here in the little town in Northwest Washington that I live in, UFCW 3000 had a labor happy hour at one of the many brew pubs that we have up here. And so I got to hang out with nurses and steel workers and grocery workers, postal workers. It was actually a great time.
Here in the DC area, people are quite captivated this week. Perhaps captivated is the wrong word, but by the demolition of the east wing of the White House. And I have a bold prediction on this one, and that's in giving him 3 more years, he's going to demolish the entire White House before this is all said and done.
I shouldn't be laughing because I think you're probably right. I've seen the pictures. I leave the country for a couple of days and the White House
Look what
gets torn
happens.
down. I mean, what the hell?
See, you deserted us, Chris. We're completely all off the map without you.
I am actually in Lisbon, Portugal. I just got done touring the Michel Giacometti Museum of Labor. I'm not even going to get started because we would do the whole show on it, and I'm actually going to do a segment in an upcoming Labor History Today show. But just short version, if you ever find yourself in Lisbon, go to the Museum of Labor. It is well worth the time. Patrick, you texted us earlier that this week's show does, and we don't always, but this week's show does have a bit of a theme. What is it?
Well, we're in quite an unusual economy at the moment in the US, I think. And well, we know a lot of people are struggling with increased costs of living, and small businesses and farmers are dramatically affected by the impact of the international tariffs. There has been this boom within the tech industry where you see perhaps 8 to 10 companies are sustaining the entire stock market above everything else. And these episodes this week really kind of dig into some of the different sides of this. That this provides, in some part, opportunity to union brothers and sisters in the trades, but that there are also concerns in some cases on the part of local communities who are affected by these new projects.
Yeah, and also vulnerable communities as well. But let's start off with the boom. Our first show is The Line: Leadership to Mentorship, which is a podcast where leaders of IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, share their thoughts and insights on their union and the electrical trade. And they had a big episode this past week where they talk about the boom in IBEW membership that's tied to all the construction work that's happening right now.
We partner with people like environmental groups who have traditionally been our friends in the industrial Midwest in particular, where many times we were on opposite sides of a line, arguing with each other whether or not jobs or plants should stay open.
And just to add, I suppose there's a tension here. It's not all data centers and it's not all warehouses. There's green jobs involved as well. There are solar panel facilities. But then in Talk the Talk, we see kind of another perspective on this, Harold.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And Talk the Talk is really interesting this week. Now, Talk the Talk is put on by the Association of Union Constructors, TAUC. Talk. Get it? Talk the Talk. And it used to be called the Construction User 2.0. But they tend to talk about trends in construction, and this week they got into some very high-tech areas.
You can put a really cool headset on your face, and I can go and visualize and walk my entire plant and experience it. But on a day-to-day basis, what's the use case for your average foreman out in the field? You got to ask that question.
But Patrick, now we're going to kind of flip things over to the other side of the economy, right?
Yeah, we're listening next to Workweek Radio from our friend Steve Zeltzer in San Francisco. And Steve creates a lot of content, but my favorite episodes of Steve's are normally those where he's on the street with his mic, often at rallies, at protests, talking to workers, and that's what you hear in this episode. Steve's at a demonstration in the Bayview neighborhood of San Francisco where they are protesting the construction of a new warehouse project, where they're protesting the construction of a new warehouse project, which will bring a lot of heavy duty traffic to the area. And there's serious concerns about the environmental and the health impacts on the residents in this neighborhood, who really didn't, it seems, have much of a say in its location, in the planning permission, in allowing this facility to go ahead.
They're just so excited to have this. I guess it's the biggest industrial site in San Francisco, but at the risk of our health, at the risk of residents having 15 to 20 years off of their life expectancy.
Anytime there is a protest in the Bay Area, it seems like Steve Zeltzer is there, and he always gets some great interviews from people on the street. And it's kind of funny that this is an Amazon warehouse that they're talking about that's going to bring all this traffic, when the word just hit a couple days ago that Amazon is talking about automating like 75% of its operations. So, needless to say, there's a lot to be concerned about with Amazon. Now we're going to talk about another vulnerable community that's not really benefiting from a booming economy, right, Patrick?
Right. I mean, this is the sort of the workforce that's living on the margins. And at the moment, we're all very aware of the proliferation of ICE raids that are taking place across the country. And Mark and Clayton in Boiling Point on the radio out of Cincinnati really take quite a deep dive into that. And if you haven't followed this story closely, they really explain who ICE is, what they're doing, why people are concerned about it. And then they look at a couple of cities in particular, Chicago and Portland, where there's been a real increase in activity and a presence of federal troops lately.
I've been really impressed with both cities and how they're handling this, standing up for what they believe in, standing up for their communities and their residents.
Yeah, I really love Boiling Point. A lot of people might think it's just a local focused show. It's based in Cincinnati, it's 2 hours long, but they really dive deep into a lot of subjects that have national implications. And just because it's happening in Cincinnati, Ohio, that doesn't mean it might not affect you wherever you live.
So this next show, it seems to me like a bit of a wild card. It's Flight Deck. It comes from the folks at United ALPA, MEC Communications Committee, and they focus on topics that affect United pilots. Those are pilots at United Airlines, and their focus is on improving the airline pilot profession. How does that fit into this week's show?
Well, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I thought I saw you in Top Gun, Harold, so I thought this one would be good for you.
I'm waiting on those residuals to come in any minute now.
What's the focus of a Flight Deck for this week's show?
Well, look, we're talking about the economy, right? And there's a lot of pieces of the economy that are really front and center that you see. Patrick talked earlier about the demolition of the White House. And you see those cranes, you see the people who are wandering around taking care of that. There's a lot of unseen jobs, jobs that people don't necessarily think about. And those jobs have very specific needs. Like this week, they're talking about the uniforms that the pilots wear.
There's quite a significant process that goes into selecting these pilot uniforms. The company has its ideas, the pilots have their ideas, then the pilots wear around and test out these ideas before they become the official new uniforms. And you need uniforms for the winter, uniforms for the summer, uniforms for the concourse. There's a lot more to it than I ever realized.
Before the wear testing, even before all that, I remember all of the mannequins set up with all the different styles and colors and all the things like that. And it was a big process just to get to the point that we were going to wear them for a little bit.
Really, it's just like any other labor story. The boss has their ideas, but the people who are actually doing the work know what kind of equipment and workwear they need to do their jobs.
And solidarity with the pilots who wanted leather jackets in the uniform. didn't get their way, it sounds like.
You know, the one time I did play a pilot, that was my costume. I just happened to have a leather jacket. They said, "Here, you're a pilot." I was like, "Okay, okay, all right."
Because
Nice.
nothing says pilot like a leather jacket, right, guys? Come on.
Apparently.
Maybe it is.
I can't believe management doesn't get that.
You know, I hitchhiked from Chicago, and a man walked up and said, "This is a union town."
This is Work Week with Steve Zeltzer. First, we go to the community protest that was held against the Gateway Warehouse project in San Francisco that went before the San Francisco Planning Commission on September the 25th. A rally was called before the hearing by Everything Bayview, and community members spoke out. Hamid Moghadam, a billionaire crony of San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie, is the CEO of Prologis, which is proposing to build a massive e-commerce warehouse in San Francisco on Toland Street in Hunters Point.
Lurie, can you talk about the logistics project? Can you talk about the logistics project? Can you talk about the logistics project?
We can't breathe. Don't speak for us. Throw collages under the bus. Billionaires don't speak for us. Throw collages under the bus. Billionaires don't speak for us.
We're here for justice for our community, for our neighbors in San Francisco. We're here to stop the San Francisco Gateway project. Even though they're saying the ink has dried, we're here to let the city and county of San Francisco and the Planning Commission know that we're here to hold them accountable for giving such permit.
And why do they want to do that? What's
because it's profit over people. They want to. They're just so excited to have this. I guess it's the biggest industrial site in San Francisco, but at the risk of our health, at the risk of residents having 15 to 20 years off of their life expectancy, at the hands of having cancer, the risk of having respiratory issues such as asthma, COPD. And so, you know, we have some of the poorest health in our community, in Bayview Hunters Point, and in surrounding communities. So it's very important that we're here today and let them know, even though they want us to feel hopeless and helpless because they have our district supervisor signing on saying this is development done right, but it's definitely, any development in Bayview Hunters Point is development done wrong. We are already saturated by industrial sites that haven't been cleaned up, that sits on contaminated land. And so we just need the development to go elsewhere. And also we need to have equitable and sustainable jobs without risking our health and our life.
And the Amazon, they plan to have an Amazon. What's that all about?
That's the San Francisco Gateway project. So basically it's a huge parking lot for industrial trucks to come in and out. And again, misuse our freeways that are old, that haven't been redone, you know, congestion, you know, it's definitely development not thought through and not done right.
They say it's community benefits. What are the community benefits?
The community benefits is continuing the wheelhouse of giving us labor jobs during the demolish and during the operations, and then cut folks short like they always do, like they've done for the rail project, for the T-train, like they've done for any construction. They give minority folks short-term jobs without training them, without sustainable income, and then they cut them short. And that's the wheelhouse of workforce development in Bayview Hunters Point.
Is this environmental racism?
It's environmental racism, it's systemic racism, it's economic racism. You know, it's...
What kind of fumes and environmental damage is this project going to do?
Well, again, increase on emissions, diesel emissions, and even impact on electric magnetic fields. So it's going to be a lot of congestion in PM2 particulate matters, PM10, PM2.5, PM1, a lot of toxins. Because again, they're giving them the opportunity to use contractors that have unknown sources of emissions. So we are here to find out and live through it.
I see. What's your name?
My name is Camila Elam.
Are you with an organization?
I am. I'm with Bayview Hunters Point. I'm a Bayview Hunters Point resident, a legacy leader, and I represent all things Bayview and Green Action.
Hey, this is Mark, your host on My Labor Radio. And we're proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network with more than 200 labor radio shows and podcasts from across the country and around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where working people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org.
Hello, and welcome to Talk the Talk podcast, where we explore the people, partnerships, and projects shaping the future of union construction and industrial innovation. Our guest today brings a rare dual perspective. Rooted in the trades and leading at the cutting edge of construction technology, he began his career as a union member at the UA Local 488 in Edmonton, following in the footsteps of his father. But after completing his apprenticeship in Alberta's oil and gas sector, he went on to oversee some of Canada's largest energy and infrastructure megaprojects. But Ryan didn't stop there. Over the past 15 years, he's evolved from boots on the ground to brains behind the tech, helping companies manage billions in capital growth through strategic data insights and purpose-built software. Now, as Vice President of Product Management at Contruent, he works across industries and continents to help project teams deliver on time, on budget, and with confidence. From fieldwork to future work, he's here to talk about what construction tech gets right and what it still gets wrong. Please welcome Ryan Posnikoff. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on Talk the Talk and agreeing to talk to us today a little bit.
So they have different specific needs. In products that I've worked in where we're working directly with field level, it's quite literally, a couple times I've been down on project sites. I still have my steel toe boots. I go down to the site, we go and observe, and we ask questions, right? And go and work with the daily users. And that's the biggest thing, is you want to have those daily users that are in the product every day who find benefit and value, or should be finding benefit and value, and understanding what makes them tick and what are the challenges they have. Do they have strong internet? If they don't, that's a problem. That's actually a regular problem.
That's a common one we hear a lot, actually, is there's no job site connectivity. So it doesn't matter how cool your widget is that's cloud-based.
Yeah, exactly. And just because something looks exciting and it's what I would quote unquote call sexy to, say, project managers, project directors, and those in like more executive roles, they don't necessarily mean much to the day-to-day guys in the field building, right? You can put a really cool headset on your face, and I can go and visualize and walk my entire plant and experience it. But on a day-to-day basis, what's the use case for your average foreman out in the field? You got to ask that question: are they going to find benefit from that? I mean, number one, HSE is going to be probably breathing down their neck if they're putting a headset on their head, on their face, right? But always asking those kind of questions, like, what value do you need? What are the biggest things that are like, a pain point for you? It sounds cliche to say pain point,
right,
but it's the reality, right? I mean, nobody gets into building and construction in the trades because they want to shuffle paperwork,
right?
Because they want to play on a computer all day. They get into it because they want to go and build. So anything they're working with has to support that endeavor ultimately.
So to that end, what does your prototyping beta process look like? How do you, before going way too far down the wrong rabbit hole, how do you roll things out in a meaningful way?
That's actually a really fun process. So it really can often start with a very rudimentary sketch. Let's use an example of development of a mobile app to do progress capture. You could start up with like a list of specific requirements that you think are going to be, necessary. And that would be coming from validating with meetings with different users that you would, as users of that solution, basically taking that list and coming up with a lo-fi sketch of it. And, this is what I'm kind of looking towards. I'll have to take that. Then we take that over to someone in our user experience group. So that's somebody who really kind of thinks these things through deeply, like not just the user interface, the look and feel, but the interaction. How many clicks do I need to do? Good example was worked on a mobile app a couple years back, and everybody thought, oh, it's great. Let's put dark mode on the mobile app. Dark mode doesn't work really well out in the field under a bright sun. Right. So it's one of those things. We found that out by walking into the field with a hi-fi mock-up, testing it out with somebody who's out there, and they go, I can't use this. I can't use dark mode. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And it's these little nuances that you're like, oh, you pick those up, but you really pick those up by coming up with concepts, coming up with something that's just usable enough, and then testing it with somebody who's going to be the term I always use is using it in anger. Like they're using it in anger, right? They're like, just work, right? Just here's the button, work, right? And you want to test that experience. You want to see, is it intuitive? Because what's intuitive to us sometimes, because we're in it all day, you want the user to pick it up and just figure it out immediately.
You've been great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. It was great today. Great to meet you, Kirk.
Hello, troublemakers. This is Lynn Fields from Resolved Labor Podcast. We're proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network with more than 200 labor radio shows and podcasts from across the country and around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where working people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org.
All right, you are tuned in to WAIF 88.3 Cincinnati, and you're listening to Boiling Point. Well, a lot has been going on with ICE, and I wanted to talk about it this week. Obviously, immigration and customs enforcement. So this segment is titled Resisting ICE, How Communities Push Back. Federal immigration enforcement has always been contentious, but in 2025, the pressure is rising yet again, especially on sanctuary cities. Cincinnati used to be a sanctuary city. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here dropping. That was sanctuary city. I believe we're not a sanctuary city anymore. Today, we'll look at two cities on the front lines, Portland and Chicago. Both are resisting ICE, but they're resisting ICE in very different ways. Have you been paying attention to the ICE resistance in those two cities, Mark?
Yep, definitely. It's one of those things that is easy to not follow because it does not bring me pleasure to read about, except from the costumes in Portland. Those are pretty funny.
Yeah, I love those.
But yeah, man, it's regardless of which city, it's been kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it really has. I've been really impressed with both cities and how they're handling this, both in their own unique ways.
Yeah.
But I think both cities are standing up for what they believe in, standing up for their communities and their residents.
Giving ICE a taste of Portland and a taste of Chicago in their own unique ways.
Yeah, and Trump and ICE aren't liking it. Well, anyway, there's legal and civil rights concerns. So there's due process violations. There's arrests happening without clear warrants or explanation. And that can violate constitutional rights and leave families with little legal recourse.
Yeah, I mean, look, like, we live in a country that has a justice system, and you will get your day in court. But let's say you get arrested wrongfully. You then have to pay for an attorney. Or you get arrested, you catch a charge for just being in the wrong crowd at an ICE protest at the wrong time. You still have to go through the legal process. You have to pay your legal fees. You have to miss work to attend court and live with the uncertainty and anxiety about your pending criminal charge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, also that says nothing about the fact that there are no clear warrants. And so what guarantee is there of having due process?
Right. And then there's also overreach. ICE often detains individuals who are not targets of investigations, sometimes arresting people simply present near enforcement actions. Collateral arrests is what they call them. And I did skip lack of transparency. We can circle back to that in a second.
Definitely.
I've seen that on Twitter, and I'm watching these videos on social media, Facebook, and it's like there seems to be a lot of collateral arrests, citizens and non-citizens alike. I mean, they're camping out at Home Depot waiting for day laborers to show up.
Yeah.
And that's just not what they sold. They sold us a bill of goods, Mark, when he was campaigning. Oh, we're just going to go after the criminals. And then it's turned into we're going after day laborers, we're going after maids, and we're going after like visa holders. There's also a real lack of transparency. There's no proper identification.
Yep.
ICE agents often fail to clearly identify themselves, making it hard for individuals to know who is detaining them, who the political process, and even living in a democracy, these are funded through tax dollars. We have a right to know who you are. We're paying your salary.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, man, like if I got pulled over by some dudes wearing masks, because that's the other thing is not only do they not have identification, but they also have masked or concealed faces where they will hide their face, which they know they're being filmed, which obviously erodes public trust and resembles literally like vigilante style enforcement rather than transparent law enforcement. And I gotta tell you, if some dude in a mask who didn't have a badge or four dudes in masks who didn't have a badge tried to drag me out of my car in the course of my day, I would stand my ground.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening to WAIF. You're listening to Boiling Point. Well, you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, this is Judy Ansell from the Heartland Labor Forum. We're radio that talks back to the boss, and we're proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network with more than 200 labor radio shows and podcasts from across the country and around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where working people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org.
Welcome to The Flight Deck, a leading edge podcast. I'm Maggie from the Communications Committee.
I am Michael Wilson.
And in this series, we are sitting down and catching up with some of our MEC committee volunteers. Today, we have the MEC Uniform Committee led by Chair Captain Sheree Krasovich. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the flight deck.
Thank you.
I want to jump right in because I think there are, after talking to you, there are some misconceptions about what the Uniform Committee does not do, what your individual role is. If you're able to, can you give us some background of what the Uniform Committee did before you got into that position, what you were given, the opportunities you were given, and kind of how the uniform is how it is today and how we wear it throughout the airport right now?
A lot of things had been approved previously from other wear tests. And then when we got in there, decisions were made. We were also allowed to do some uniform surveys that hadn't been done. And even that was post 3 wear tests. But the company decided that working with us, we might end up with a better product than having people be unhappy. And we were allowed to make significant number of changes even after the 3rd wear test. And a lot of that was working together with the company and with other groups within ALPA to try and do what was best for the pilots and what would be professional and work for the type of job that we have as pilots.
Pilots don't tend to shy away from telling your opinions, I guess.
Right. Ask 3 pilots, get 4 opinions.
So you keep saying we, and if I didn't know you, if I didn't know your committee, I would think we is this grand group of dozens and dozens of volunteers. Tell me about this we, your committee, and how few worker bees there actually are to do this massive overhaul.
Well, we are small but mighty. There's myself, a vice chair, Shabab, and then 2 committee members. And those were actually added. I became one of the additional committee members right when they were trying to overhaul the things after the 3rd wear test. So there's 4 of us. But there will be continuous things as we go into fall and people don't have hats or overcoats or even just things like how do, interpretations of the FOM on what is allowed to be worn, because we have new product now, new pieces. Can we wear the outside, the tech coat with, how is that? So we answer all of those kind of things. So
I have to give a shout out in the middle of that to the leather jacket guys.
Oh gosh. Once again, that ship had sailed.
You said it. I had to say it.
Oh gosh, I will do whatever the pilot group want, but that was one of the decisions that was decided
early on.
Yeah, early on, and we couldn't do anything about it later.
In those early decisions, and just to give everyone a perspective, before the wear testing, even before all that, I remember all of the mannequins set up with all the different styles and colors and all the things like that. And it was a big process just to get to the point that we were going to wear them for a little bit for all the wear test pilots that did that. I think we can all agree that we want to look our best. Look good, feel good, fly good. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. But at the bottom line is this: the company decided we're going to have a new uniform, and we're doing our best to make sure that we do it within the rounds of what pilots want.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I think when I got hired, I said, you want to walk like a duck, you need to look like a duck and talk like a duck. Yep. And so there's something to be said for walking up with your jacket on, buttoned, and your hat that is the first view and gives everybody the perspective of what we're going to look like and how we're going to do our job. And we all make those judgments because we're humans within the first 2 to 3 minutes. So I think it is one of the things that can make or break how the rest of the flight goes, how you work with your flight crew, and how the passengers view you when you walk up.
Completely agree.
It has been so nice having you here today, Sheree. To our listeners, this has been The Flight Deck, a Leading Edge podcast.
We will see you on the line.
Hey, this is Bob Odie from Million Dollar Organizer. We're proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network, with more than 200 labor radio shows and podcasts from across the country and around the world. The Labor Radio Podcast Network, where working people speak. Find us at laborradionetwork.org.
Welcome to another episode of Leadership to Membership. Today I have joining me International Secretary Treasurer Paul Noble and International Vice President of the 4th District, Austin Keyser. We want to talk to the membership a little bit about what we've had in the last year. Austin, you can talk a little bit about some of the great things your locals have done in the 4th District and talk a little bit about the states that's in your district so the membership out there understands the area in which you cover in the United States. As most of them know, we have 11 districts, but they don't know how those districts are carved out. So would you kick off with just giving a little description of the states you represent in the 4th District?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have, it's a really diverse group of states, right? So we start out here in the Midwest in Ohio, where I'm at now, where I grew up and where I started my apprenticeship. Then we have Kentucky. We go over West Virginia. We have Maryland, Virginia, and DC. So pretty diverse set of local unions covering all kinds of different marketplaces.
The key, I think, was this year that the numbers were higher and the percentage was higher than all other districts. And I'd like for you to talk about how you achieved that and some of the things and initiatives you have in the 4th District that's really caught on and doing well.
Yeah, we've done some really great things. And again, tight-knit group of business managers really focused on growth, really focused on organizing. And it's been that way for a long time now. More than 15 years ago, we started signing small works agreements here, and we've got 4 that cover the entire state. And it's really allowed us to not only claw back market share, but that's not all we have going on. We're squeezing the market, right? We're coming from the bottom, but also at the top where we're signing project labor agreements on some of the biggest mega projects in the world right now. We're doing so many data center jobs and battery plants and chips plants. And we just got another announcement on a couple more $1 billion into the energy centrifuges that are making fuel for all the advanced nuclear reactors that are going to be built across the country and that are being announced right now. We have pharmaceuticals that are really investing here. That are just driving market. In fact, we have about 2,000 jobs with a 70% chance or better starting at about $145 billion worth of value next year alone in the 4th District. That's about $77 billion in Virginia, which is leading the way, leading the entire country in investment that's coming in large projects, and $33 billion in Ohio. We've been sort of sustaining a big boom here for a while. West Virginia is a great example of it too. I mean, it's a state that it's right to work. It's not allowed to have project labor agreements in the state. It is lost a lot of work from coal. A lot of the big mega employers are gone from the region now. But they've increased their market share by almost 18% in that same period of time. Up north of 60%, I think 63% right now, which is, by any measure, even in a good blue state where it's, we have a lot of public policy and a lot of things helping us drive it, which is another important part of the piece, obviously, politics and government affairs, that those public policy levers are great. And that's what we used in Ohio, but at the grassroots level, we don't have a lot of statewide support, but we've taken solar here, for instance, just 5 years ago, well, about 6 years ago, the market share of our industrial scale solar projects in Ohio was 8%. With the 2 agreements, 2 MOUs that we just signed yesterday, we're at 100%.
Awesome.
Of that market.
Unbelievable.
And a growing market. And that really takes a multi-dimensional approach. You can't just look at these things and say, we're going to go out, we're going to organize the workers and strip, and we're going to do this thing. It takes project labor agreements. It takes very creative things like you and Paul put together with the tri-trade agreement, with us and the laborers and the operating engineers to bring market solutions, but also that we go to these town hall and these meetings at township trustee level up to county commissioners and really fight. We turn out bodies and we fight for these projects for siting and permitting. And we add that value in and we partner with people like environmental groups who have traditionally been our friends in the industrial Midwest in particular, where many times we were opposite sides of a line arguing with each other on whether or not jobs or plants should stay open. So really just trying to morph and grow and understand the realities of the new markets and attack them all dimensionally.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership to Membership. And until the next time, we'll see you later.
All right, so that's going to be our show for the week, but there's more.
Whoa,
there's
hold
always
on.
more.
There's definitely more. I mean, we had so many shows release over the past week, and there was no way that Patrick could really fit all of them into a half-hour show. So that's why we've got shows you should know.
And what have we got for shows you should know?
So Mike over at Labor Force always covers a lot of really important stories. This week, he runs down the fallout from the federal shutdown, Houston hotel workers' big win, Volkswagen's union showdown, and Sean Fain's call for a unified working class movement. And then over at Power at Work, you're going to want to check this out. Seth Harris digs in with David Sirota and the International Trade Union
Confederation.
And the International Trade Union Confederation's Luke Triangle on how corporate power is undermining democracy and how labor power is fighting back.
That's one of my favorite shows. I love Seth. He really digs deep and always has great guests. All right, this one we go north of the border for Radio Labor Canada. That's LABOUR, Radio Labor Canada. BC Nurses Union President Adrienne Gear is making the case for enforceable nurse-to-patient ratios as a key to fixing Canada's healthcare crisis, which is interesting because everybody, of course, thinks that Canada has better healthcare than the U.S. So interesting show on Radio Labor Canada. And then...
it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. I think I've heard U.S. nurses also talking about patient-to-nurse ratios. It seems like it's going on everywhere.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Another frequent flyer on the weekly, the Heartland Labor Forum, was also in shows you should know for this week. Judy told us about this earlier in this week at our network meeting. She put together a heavyweight roundtable to ask a really urgent and valid question about whether the National Labor Relations Board keeps failing workers, which, yes, spoiler alert, and then what comes next for organizing and bargaining rights, which is, that is a really interesting question. So you'll want to check that out on the Heartland Labor Forum. Patrick?
Next up, we're going to go to the Valley Labor Report from the shutdown's impact to postal union fights and North Carolina worker power. Jacob and Adam connect national headlines to shop floor realities. Then finally,
that one's really interesting because they have the new president of the North Carolina AFL-CIO who's bringing a lot of youthful energy into the labor movement in that state.
Then we'd also suggest Working Class History as an unusual pick. The editors of Be Gay, Do Crime explore everyday acts of queer resistance and what they teach us about solidarity and rebellion.
That is such a cool topic. Harold, I think we should perhaps pick that up for Labor History Today. What do you think?
Absolutely. That book has really gotten a lot of attention because there's not a lot of history books written on the gay rights movement. And we can always use one more. Working Class History always brings their own take on things. Hey, that's all the time we have for this week's Labor Radio Podcast Weekly, your roundup from more than 200 shows in the Labor Radio Podcast Network.
Find links to every show at laborradionetwork.org and follow Labor Radio Pod on Blue Sky, X, Facebook, and Instagram.
That's a lot of social media, Harold.
It's a lot to keep track of.
And folks, you can tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you. info@laborradionetwork.org. And Patrick, Harold is waving his finger at me. Does that mean you have something to say? Yes, I think it does.
Yeah, actually, we always want to hear what you think, but we really want to hear what you think about this new format we've got going on. So please let us know. info@laborradionetwork.org.
Right. Like it, love it, hate it, have a suggestion about how we can do it better. We'd love to hear it. Support the network. You can go around, you can wear so that when we bump into you out at the rallies, we know that you're with the network. We have t-shirts, 2 colors, all sizes, laborradionetwork.org. Oh, I didn't bring one here to Lisbon. I should have brought one. That would have been cool, especially if I get
Drop the ball.
Yep, my bad.
Oh, is it back to me?
It says in big bold letters, Patrick, so yeah, it's back to you.
Mean? This podcast is recorded under a SAG-AFTRA collective bargaining agreement.
This show was edited by Patrick Dixon.
And it was produced by Chris Garlock.
And social media, always and forever, it's in his contract, is by Mr. Harold Phillips. For the Labor Radio Podcast Weekly, I'm still Chris Garlock.
I'm Patrick Dixon, off to grab myself a souvenir piece of White House rubble.
Oh, get me one, get me one. Phillips. I want a piece too.
I'm still Harold Phillips. Stay active, stay tuned to your local Labor Radio Podcast show, and we will see you next week.